Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Let's bring in our special guest. Andrew, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it, Rick.
Oh, it's our privilege, really. I'm so appreciative. You're here tonight to share your expertise in food security. That's been your focus for a while over there at Veterans for Freedom. Why is that your focus?
So I guess sometime last year, how we, guys who are experienced like battle planners or tactical level planners like myself, is you identify who the enemy is, what their capabilities and limitations are, what their most likely course of action against you is, or most deadly course of action, and then you come up with plans on how to counter that. So based on what we were seeing last year, the big thing from at least what we could conclude was that they're using food as a weapon. So and like what Sun Tzu said, he goes, in war you need to put yourself in an unassailable position. So we say, okay, well, if we can take that weapon out of their hands and put it into our hands, then you leave them with sort of limited ways they can attack you. So yeah, since last November, I think we started off with a food or inflation or food security intelligence summary. And then we started to come up with sort of ideas and messaging to get out to people to focus on food security, because there's a saying they use, most families are 9 meals from anarchy. So on average, the average household has about 9 meals on hand, and then it's anarchy after that. And I've personally seen people starving to death, families and young children, that sort of thing. And there's also, when I was involved in tactical boarding operations, how we would coerce people and try to get them to tell us stuff and that sort of thing, is by using food, because we know that they were short on food. So that's what we've been promoting: food security. I don't think, because some people, ask us, is shit going to hit the fan and things are going to blow up and there's going to be mayhem in the streets? I don't know. I don't think so. If I was a betting man, I wouldn't think so. But I would say that food is going to take up such a large portion of your paycheck that it's really you're going to have to decide whether to feed yourself or to pay your rent or mortgage or that sort of thing. So
when you talk about the enemy, you say they. Are you even able to clearly identify who this enemy is? Because sometimes it feels like our own government. Sometimes it feels like it might be outside forces. It seems very shadowy.
Yeah, I would say the globalists, the elites, cultural Marxists, the people in power. And I think back when we did Canada Divided, we threw in there, academia, large multinational corporations, bureaucrats, technocrats, that sort of thing. So it's the people who are in control of our system and our ways of life. But again, those people and those organizations are being controlled by a very small percentage of people or organizations like BlackRock and Vanguard and some of these other large hedge funds and that sort of thing. So that's what I would say who the enemy is. It's really hard to decipher But with our approach, even though I know now they just came out and said, oh, if you say cultural Marxist, that's anti-Semitic, which is a bunch of nonsense. But that's what we just say is like, we believe it's the cultural Marxist takeover of the Western world through ideological subversion. And those are the people who we have to push back and fight back against.
And we do see what their agenda is because they laid out quite clearly in Davos, the World Economic Forum, through these other global governance organizations, I guess. Is that about right? Agenda 2030?
Yeah. So what our concern is that you have our current federal government who's signing away Canadian sovereignty and our individualism as a nation to large unelected officials. So the World Health Organization, the United Nations, like look what's happening over with Europe and the European Union and the power that they have. Those people were never voted in for the control that the control that they have over there and the laws and everything that they're making. So the same thing's happening in North America to us in the United States with these, it's outside forces. They're not, I'm not saying these organizations don't have Canadians in there employed or working for them, but they aren't Canadian government. They aren't Canadian organizations. They're outside forces who are impacting our country negatively.
And we know that they want farmers to use less fertilizer. That means lower yields. They want meat production reduced dramatically. We see them implementing these initiatives in Western countries across the board. And that's where your strategy for food security comes into play.
That's correct. So the way we approach it is in the military, you have 3 levels. You have your strategic level, which is sort of your broad 38,000 foot view on what's happening. And then you have your operational level, which is like your middle management. And then you have your tactical level, which is the actual boots on the ground. And those guys and gals make up the majority of the population. Those are like the people who get out and do things in their community and that sort of thing. And I mentioned this a fair bit when we go around and brief. I think Daryl and I have briefed over 1,000 people in Ontario with our community intelligence briefing. Is about 4 hours long. And one of the things we mentioned is that you can have all the strategic guidance in the world. You can have, people telling you, oh, this, unless that translates to actual actions on the ground, then and you have people being able to execute that, the strategic guidance means nothing. So with our strategic guidance, we think that localism will counter globalism. So you need to, spend more time in your local community, get to know people, community building, and focus on, our recommendation is to focus on food security. So I'll give you an example. So I'm up in Haliburton County in Ontario, and myself and another guy started a homesteaders group, which focused on community building and food security. We thought there was going to be 10, 15 people who were interested in it. And all of a sudden we had 125 people. And so we had to get a different venue. We meet monthly. We just did an event the past Saturday that had 250 people show up with you had homesteading products and speakers and food and like I had a barbecue and that sort of thing. And that's what we're doing. So we don't want, you want to start off with some common ground. You don't want to start off with, Klaus Schwab, the WEF, and the New World Order. You want to start off with a couple things. So like food security, community building, find some common ground, and then go from there. So what we're hoping to do is to have that sort of replicated across the country. Now, it's nothing new. There's already these homesteaders groups out there. It's not like we came up with this, but there was nothing in my community. So instead of me sort of talking about it or whatever, I actually went out and did it. And now we have a monthly potluck dinner that's coming up on the 29th of July. And then we have a mailing list, a web page, and we're all sort of helping each other out and focus on food security. So because you're right, it's what you said earlier, nitrogen reduction, then farmers are going out of business. I think it was last year, Post Millennial came out with a report said 1 in 4 Canadian farmers had contemplated committing suicide. And a lot of these farmers, their children don't want to take over the family farm. They want to go again the city or get into technology and that sort of thing. So who knows how long these farmers are going to be around before they have to sell. And so that's why what we say is I won't get into too much of the details, but our farm here, we want to manage the entire food supply chain on the property here within the farm. So like propagation, your own seeds, cycling through chickens and that sort of thing, so that we're not reliant on the grocery store and paying exorbitant prices for food.
And what you're referring to, really, what you're talking about is, in many respects, the end of the family farm in our country. Takeovers, land grabs by big agribusiness, large corporations, all sort of backed up by government policies.
Yep, exactly. So they're incentivized to do that, and they're willing to pay big to get these farmers out of business, buy the land and hold it, and you're pricing out, other people who may be interested in purchasing that sort of farm and carrying on. And the farmers are obviously going to take the higher offer for the land. But there's some great guys out there. There's a man named Curtis Stone. He started off as the urban farmer. Now his channel is called Off Grid with Curtis Stone. I think he has 500,000 or 700,000 followers on YouTube. He just got back on Twitter. He's awake. He knows what's going on. He's an excellent source of knowledge for how you can do things on your property. There's another guy named, his YouTube channel is called Arkopia, Arkopia. He has a deep freeze greenhouse in northern Saskatchewan. His YouTube channel is great. And then what our farm is mostly based off is a guy named Forche, who does the Market Gardener. And basically, this guy has a house has a farm in Quebec, and on his 2-acre farm, he provides enough food for about 300 to 400 families in his community. And so we have something similar here. We have a lady who has a 1-acre farm, and I think she has 30 or 40 families who get weekly sort of food boxes from her. So if you think about it, and farming is not for everyone. It is tough. Homesteading is hard, chores. I can barely leave my property anymore because we have dogs and chickens and livestock and that sort of thing. It is not for everyone. But if there's someone doing that locally in your community, you can support them by purchasing products for them. So we get about, I think, 3 dozen eggs a day at our farm. We can hardly keep those eggs on the shelf. And then also we do tours here. So we have people come and visit, and then we're starting workshops as well, how to pressure can, preserve food, and that sort of thing. And there's a million YouTube channels out there where you can learn how to do this. But, and I know we get a bit of hate thrown our way when people talk about, I'm going to protest or I'm going to go convoy and that sort of thing. The first thing I ask them is like, hey, do you have 6 months of food stored or ready for your family? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, maybe you should spend your time doing that. Get that in order. Make sure you have some food security instead of maybe I don't want to say wasting your time, but spending your time elsewhere doing things where you might not get the results you're looking for.
Sure. And this approach, this strategy that you're putting forward, it's a peaceful thing that people can do to take control of their own destiny, ultimately, by accepting personal responsibility for their health, their safety, their future, for not just themselves, but for their families and their communities locally. It puts the power back in their own hands.
Right, exactly. And what we tell people in this briefing that Daryl and I do is like, we hope we're wrong. Like everything we're saying, we hope we're wrong, whether it's, the whole IMBE angle that they're using, all the, government corruption, shortage in police forces, easy on crowd, whatever it is that we talk about. We hope we're wrong. And the thing is that if we're not wrong, then what have you lost? You're getting healthy food. You're learning new skills. It's something you can transfer to your children, so they're maybe not as reliant on big. Not I want to say big pharmaceutical, but big grocery stores and that sort of thing.
Agribusiness.
And they're providing, big ag, and they're providing for themselves and their community. And I remember it was a great video. It was sent to me on Instagram, and I think it was an Amish farm, but basically they had this large farm. They had a grocery store on their farm, and they showed a video of the guy saying, "Okay, you're at so and so's farm." He opened up the door, went through this small grocery store. They had milk from the farm, they had eggs from the farm, they had a bakery built in there, so they had all their breads and everything coming from there. That a local guy did honey, they had apples and fruits from the orchard. So basically, they had their entire grocery store minus all the garbage that you get, like crackers and cookies and chips and that sort of thing, which you don't need. You had it all right on the farm. And then that farm store actually had other local farmers selling their products there. So they're cutting out the middleman. Your products are going to be most likely cheaper and healthier for you. And you're cutting out, the big grocery stores and that sort of thing. And you're getting your organic produce and that sort of thing. So just imagine if we had something similar to that with these farm properties and these farm grocery stores all throughout Canada.
Are there any issues with government stepping in and trying to throw a monkey wrench or into the cogs of the machine with red tape and mucking things up?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Definitely zoning would be an issue. You'd probably have to zone commercial or get approved for farming, like be zoned as a farm. There might be some issues there, but I think now, especially locally here, as people are starting to pay more attention to bylaws and the type of nonsense that they're trying to sneak through, and then it's funny because then people show up to push back, and for years, probably 10, 20 years, these boards and in local municipalities, they might have a handful of citizens pay attention to what they're doing, but now you're getting more and more people paying attention to the minutes, approach in the agenda, attending via Zoom or in person. And you can see as soon as people start to ask questions and fight back, they're muting their mics and, oh, that's hate speech, and, oh, don't this and this conspiracy theory, that and that sort of thing. So eventually, it will come down. They will continue to legislate and use bylaws to, I think, try and restrict you and your productivity. But a lot of people up here, they don't even not that they don't pay attention, but they don't care. They're just doing their thing, and they're going to feed their families and that sort of thing. And if the municipality wants to waste their time and resources trying to punish these people and find these people, there's probably hundreds and hundreds of people who are just fed up with the bylaws, fed up with the municipality. So I think there's a growing resistance to actually abiding by some of the bylaws that they're putting out.
Yeah. So, I mean, what we're really talking about here is if you have a backyard, start a garden.
Yep.
And for people who maybe live in apartments, there are other strategies where you can work collectively with your local community. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, definitely. So there's all sorts of different options. There's something called CSA, which is community supported agriculture. Our local town here, when we went to like their sort of fairgrounds / track field and that sort of thing, we saw this massive portion of the field that they've converted to community supported agriculture. So the elderly people living in the old age homes or in the apartments and condos and that sort of thing, they actually go down. They have their own plots that they can maintain themselves and grow what they want. So there's all sorts of different options out there. We had a guy talk to us, and this is someone who we briefed, and he basically, and this was early, probably I think in March, and he basically said, yeah, I went back, spent the rest of the winter learning, sort of planning out my garden, stuff like that, got rid of all of his grass, got little row houses in there, and then his neighbor sort of found out what he was doing. And he was like, what are you doing? He's like, look, we need to focus on food and growing our own food. And then both a neighbor on each side got involved. And then he said they built gates in between the properties. So now they have 3 full backyards, all focusing on food production, which is great. And the more and more people we can get doing that, the less sort of power that they have. And again, we know that they're using food as a weapon, so we need to take that weapon out of their hands and put it into ours.
It sounds like you're not only getting a secure food supply, you're also building a stronger community.
Exactly. And that's why when I started my group up here, the two things we are focusing on, food security, community building. Those are the two things. So we do, get-togethers and potlucks and that sort of thing to build community. And then we focus on, food security. We bulk purchase seeds, we bulk purchase equipment. And, we have like a sort of standard layout for a pretty good greenhouse with a materials list. We can bulk buy all those materials, then we can all get together, build one of them on my property, and then move to the next person's property, build one there. And then also sharing, tips and tricks and things that work in your area.
So I guess you go out and you speak. If someone wanted you to come and address a crowd or join a Zoom meeting or something, how would they get in touch with you, or how arrange that?
Yeah, so if you can go to v4f.ca, forwards you to our full website, veteransforfreedom.ca. You just send an email to info@veteransforfreedom.ca. And then, we haven't really, it's mainly been Daryl and myself, who's like my fire team partner for doing Ontario. Like I think we've done Mississauga, Hamilton, Cornwall, we did Ottawa, we did some other things there. So if you have a big enough group, Daryl and I, probably not the summertime, we're pretty busy up here, but probably in September. But it's that briefing is just not on food security. It's sort of community intelligence briefing. We talk about sort of the strategy that the government's going to be using, legislation. We talk about a whole host of issues, but what we try to do is actually give you things that you can do at your level that you can implement and focus on to help you, insulate yourself from what's coming.
Is it accurate or fair to say that we are in the middle of some kind of war, Drew?
Yeah. So I would say we are in a full-blown culture war and have been since about 2010. It all started, if you do history and everything, or look into the history, it all started after the Occupy Wall Street thing, because what happened there is, you had the plebs, the peasants, the serfs, or whatever you want to call us. After what happened, we focused, not saying we and me, but that class of people focused on the rich, the elites, the rich and powerful, because of what happened and how much money they took with the crisis and that sort of thing. And there's that great meme where it has this, big banker sitting in his office, and he picked up a phone and he's talking to somebody. He says, let's introduce them to identity politics. And then since then, everyone's just sort of been fighting amongst themselves. And it's definitely a full-blown culture war. And the major sort of medium that they're using is the internet or information warfare, fifth generational warfare. And it's bad. Like we did our Canada Divided video, and we're going to come up with a Canada United video. And when we're working on the script and talking about and discussing it, it's like, we're not too optimistic that we're coming back from this. There is like a chasm that's formed in between people in Canada. It was all, the whole COVID thing was a great opportunity for them to divide people even further. And there's so much hate and vitriol in between, the people that are awake and the people that are woke, or whatever you want to call them. Yeah. Unless you, and now I feel bad for me personally, how I approach it. I feel bad for those people because I think they're mentally ill, because they've been brainwashed through ideological subversion or active measures. If you know who Yuri Bezmenov is and what he talks about. So they actually think they're right. And even if you can provide them with the truth and facts and actual, footage or whatever, they still won't believe what they're saying, because that's how sort of demoralized they are. So it's pretty unfortunate. But, it's like we did our really good briefing there with Stephen Coughlin from Unconstrained Analytics. Mm-hmm. And he said, as soon as you waste your time engaging with those people who are still living in the blue pill world, you've already lost. right? So like we don't even bother engaging with them. We just try and focus on ourselves, and we try and focus on the people, the majority of the Canadian population who are actually disengaged to what's, and they're not really paying attention, or they're not aware of what's going on and how we're losing the Western way of life.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I watched a lot of the videos out there right now with all the conflict in the streets and the screaming and the shouting, it feels to me, or it seems to me, like we're not getting anywhere doing that stuff. And I think that for you personally, I'm getting the sense, and I don't know if this is, representative of the entire V4F organization, but it seems like you've kind of shifted your focus to do things that are productive and sort of away from all the mania. Is that fair?
Yeah, so it's the way it sort of works with V4F is we have like a headquarters of maybe 15 or 20 people. I think last number we had was over 3,100 applications. We have tons of members, all the different regions. Some people like going out there and protesting. Other people don't. We have guys who are disabled. We have elderly guys, right? So what we try to do is just put out some guidance to the members. We don't force people to do anything. We have controversial members who have their own opinions on things. We have religious members, non-religious members. Like the only thing that's where we're common is that we're veterans and we're awake to sort of what's happening. So we just give out some guidance to people, and we don't discourage people from going and protesting in our members. I know we got some guys out in Nova Scotia to do it. But what we try to do with our messaging is, have a solution-based approach to our problems. So what can you do to try and counter this stuff? And then we also have Jeff, who does a sort of daily podcast Monday to Friday at 9 a.m. And all he's trying to do with that is he talks about some things in the news. He ties a lot of things in historically. And what we're trying to do is educate and inform people is what it is. But this is like what James Topp said in his speech in Ottawa. It's like, look, like I'm just showing you that incredible things can be done. I can't fix all the problems. It is up to you as individuals to do things in locally or in your personal life or community, that sort of thing, to try and solve these problems. I'm just showing you that you can, and you can build up a big following, and you can get a lot of support in doing what you're doing. But people actually have to get out there, and this is one of the lessons that we need to sort of do is the circles principle, which I learned from a guy named Andy Stumpfair, which is your circle of control, which is your actions and what you do and things that you say and do in your life. Your circle of influence, which is your friends, your family, your coworkers, your community, whatever it is, and your circle of concern. And too many people are spending almost all of their time in the circle of concern. So your circle of concern is something you have no control over and you have no influence over. Right. And people will go and spend 10 hours a day looking through Pfizer documents or, playing video games or just, wasting this time online when they should be focusing more on what their circles of control and their circles of influence, because that's where you're going to have a greater overall effect on, the large, us as a Canadian population trying to fight our way out of this. So I know guys who are like, they think they're doctors now because of how many Pfizer documents and things. Oh yeah, man, do you hear about the nanoparticles and the plasma because of the, what, and this and that? And I'm like, dude, why are you wasting your time? Like, there's nothing you can do about that. It's out there. Okay, I'm not saying don't have any situational awareness, but start focusing on things that matter in your community and things that you can control and things that you can have influence over.
See, what you're saying, actually, to me, that sounds like freedom. It's not that complicated. It's just free yourself from the shackles of dependence on the government and the systems by simply taking action to make yourself self-reliant. Like, take care of yourself.
100%. And we had a really sort of experienced homesteader come and speak at one of our homesteading groups, and his speech was excellent. And his kids are now second generation homesteaders. He brings them up, they milk the cows, they do the chickens, they do this sort of thing. And he just said the ultimate freedom is food freedom. Like we have our water from our well, we have our shelter that we've built on our land, and now we have food. So essentially, they have the ultimate freedom because there's nothing that's sort of stopping them or relying them to go into the city. And what's interesting is, do you know that guy, that great doctor, Dr. Patrick? I think it's Patrick Phillips.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. So he was a guy who was speaking out against the you-know-what, and he basically got fined, and I think he lost his medical license. And so I think he has a big Twitter following. A lot of Twitter we post and forget, so we don't pay too much attention to it. But he's over 50,000 followers. And it's funny because he just posted a picture of him and his partner. And he's like, what did he say? He said, if a couple of years ago when I was a doctor in Toronto living in a condo, he goes, if you could picture me living on a homestead out in the bush and slaughtering meat birds and chickens, he goes, I like something along those lines. It was so funny that we sort of retweeted or whatever, because that's exactly what we're encouraging people to do. It's like, get out of the cities, find your friends, tribe up, find common goals, and then work together to achieve those goals. And so that guy went from a medical doctor, and now he's slaughtering meat birds at a homestead in Ontario with his partner. It was pretty funny.
Big changes. Everything's changing out there, and the weather's changing already. We're kind of already midsummer. Is it too late to kind of get started with this stuff, or is there any wrong time, or is any time a good time?
Well, it's not too late. Like, not everything is fruit and vegetables, right? A lot of your vegetables, they could be going in now. You have to definitely find out what your hardiness zone is for your area, and you plant based on that. But what you can do is something very simple, is you can do meat birds. So meat birds usually have between an 8 and 12 week life cycle. You could build a chicken tractor in probably a day, buy some day old meat birds and get them sort of going. And then you can either learn how to slaughter them yourselves, or you can take them down. There's usually Amish and Mennonite butchers and so on in different areas of Ontario who will do it for you for a couple bucks. And so I think we did 40 or 50 meat birds last year. And then we learned how to pressure can. And so then we cut them all up and pressure canned them. And with pressure canning, they stay in their mason jars. And I think they have a life. This is cooked meat in there, not in the fridge or freezer. And they're about 20, 25 years that they can stay on the shelf with pressure canning. Yeah. So there's all sorts of things you can do. You can buy, I know a guy who runs a 24/7 freeze dryer. So he's about, I think he said his machine does 4,000 or 5,000 pounds a year. So what he does is he goes to supermarkets, he buys stuff that's like almost past the expiry date or whatever, has a discount. And then he just he cuts it up, throws it in the freeze dryer, and then bags it, or the Mylar bags that you use to put that in. And there's another thing, 20, 25 years. So there's all sorts of things you can do. And you don't have to go full blown into food, so right into homesteading, because it'd be pretty frustrating and it might sort of lead you up to quit. But there's incremental changes you can make in your life. You can start with just a herb garden on your back porch. You can do potatoes in a bucket. There's things you can do and slowly increase your skill set and slowly increase your production every year. You don't have to jump right in and go and buy a homestead and learn to farm from scratch.
Do you save money right now by doing this?
It's hard to say up here because we have so many projects in greenhouses and geodesic domes and stuff on the go. Definitely, I can tell you on the chicken, when we did the chickens, when we buy them at day olds for $1 and then give them 8 weeks of food and process them, you're getting like a massive chicken. That's probably about $40-45, and you're paying $10-12 for it. So you're definitely saving money in that regard. And seeds are a lot cheaper. Like, I know people have big herb gardens. You can do garlic starting in the fall. There's all sorts of things you can do. So yes, I definitely think you're saving money. Now, if you factor in your time of sort of setting it up and doing that sort of thing, depending on what your hourly rate is, maybe not, but you know what food you're getting. You know the food is healthy and organic if you decide to go that route, and it's not processed garbage from inside a grocery store.
I guess that's a key part of this as well, because somebody, actually, my wife just sent me a picture of a Campbell's soup can that said it has bioengineered ingredients in it. So, I mean, you go to the supermarket, I think that unless you're really checking the ingredients, they're probably being fed things that you probably don't want to eat.
Yeah, well, I always used to laugh at watch your show, and you had that commercial that's where it'd say like "Don't eat the bugs," and it was like the high pitched voice. It was so funny. Yeah, definitely pay attention to what's in your what the ingredients are in the food that you're consuming. Like so much of this stuff is ultra processed stuff. You know, you get all the lefties who just consume copious amounts of soy. So you don't want to consume soy as man, but they're putting that in there as well. And like hydrogenated corn oil, like there's so much bad stuff. But just imagine if you go local, you could buy, local milk. I know it still has to be sort of processed. You can't get whole milk anymore, or it's against the law to do it. But you can buy stuff locally, being done by people that you trust and from their farms. You're going to be way better off in the long run for your overall health and wellness, and your body's not going to be, processing this garbage that you get from a grocery store.
Does what you're doing tie into what the government is trying to implement with natural health supplements and restricting access?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I haven't looked in that too much. Like when I saw the headline for that, I was just like, yeah, no surprise, right? They're going to continue to do this sort of thing. They'll eventually come, I think, for homesteads and farms, and you won't be able to sell your products at farm stands, and you already can't sell processed chicken and that sort of thing to your neighbors, right? So you can do it for yourself, but you can't do it. So there's all sorts of restrictions. Now I understand there's certain standards you have to meet in terms of cleanliness and processing meat and butchering and that sort of thing. But there's places here where you can take your cow, they will butcher your cow and then give it and then break it up sort of into pounds into the way you want and get it back to you. So I think again we're going to see a ton of this legislation continue to come down. I think a lot of it's going to be focused on gun rights. A lot of it's going to be focused on speech rights, and then again, food. Those are the things that they're clamping down on. So yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be bad. And again, they eventually just want to force us, the plebs, the peasants, the serfs, into consuming food from their sort of desired or approved outlets instead of doing it for ourselves and our community.
And you say you really don't engage with people who are still blue-pilled, but they really are feeding people crickets. So what do you think, Drew, is it going to take to wake other people up?
Yeah. So sorry, maybe I mischaracterized that. So the woke mob, who make up probably 5, 10, 15% of the population, the virtue signaling, social justice warriors. They think everything revolves around, the skin pigmentation and what's between their legs and all this other cultural Marxist nonsense. Those people are lost. They are brainwashed. I might offend some people here, but yeah, I remember when we were calling someone woke and they're like, by woke, we mean enlightened. And I was like, no, woke means retarded. Sorry, I don't want to offend anyone, but I got sailor mouth. But that's what these people think. They think they're the enlightened ones and they know what's best, and everything revolves around people's immutable characteristics, which is just a bunch of crap. But these are people who've been indoctrinated. These are people who've been subverted, and these are the people who think that men can be women and men can breastfeed and all this other complete nonsense. That's what they are. So they're just clowns, right? They're clowns living in a clown world. So you trying to engage with them, there's no point. There's literally no point. There's nothing you can do. to wake these people up. They are weak-minded. They've been ideologically subverted, and it's a waste of time. Now, the people who are disengaged, who may be still in the blue pill world but disengaged, those are the people we need to focus on. They had that great documentary a couple of weeks ago called The Great Awakening, which I thought was well done. We need to continue to wake those people up, and sort of get them over and to our side and let them know what's happening in the world. And so those are the people we need to focus on. But what I was saying with that previous statement is that Stephen Coughlin said is like, if you engage with these people in the blue pill world, so meaning engaging with the woke mob or the clowns, whatever you want to call them, in the blue pill world, you've already lost. And so what's happening now, unfortunately, in politics, you see these politicians who are kowtowing to the woke mob, right? And they've already lost. And, if someone calls me like they say, "Oh yeah, you're a white supremacist, you're a racist," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I got a black friend or this." You've already lost because you're engaging. They control control the vocabulary, control the conversation, then they control the outcome. So if you engage with them in that world, you're already losing. So the best thing to do is not engage with them. Someone calls me racist, I just laugh, right? Like I don't, you just don't engage with. It's all from the cultural Marxist playbook. All their attacks, you're racist, xenophobe, bigot, and you're against able-bodied people or disabled people. Like it never ends. Whenever there's something out there that makes you like a proud Canadian or proud American or whatever it is, they just come up with a new word to subvert that and say, okay, well, if you're flying Canadian flags, then you're a white supremacist or a colonizer, and all. It just never ends. And people think they kowtow and give into this, and they give them an inch. Oh no, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry, or whatever. And then these people keep going. They take a mile, and they just play the perpetual victim card. So it's just not a winning strategy in our opinion. So the best thing to do is just not wait. You only have a finite amount of time, finite amount of bandwidth. Don't waste it with these woke clowns and all the nonsense that they're pushing, because you're not going to win against them.
Yeah. So we're getting near the end of our time together here tonight. Is there anything that you'd like to touch on or think that I might have been missing?
Well, yeah. So we one thing that we sort of want to take off, it was an initiative that we started back in for June 1st, is what we call the V4F support fund. So basically, since our inception, we've raised over $100,000 or, got some money into people's hands who needed it. And we want to continue doing that. So we've helped, veterans in need. We've helped homeless vets. We've helped, truckers who needed money. We've helped, sort of wide array of people in Canada. And the tyranny is not going to end. So what we're doing with the support fund is it's a monthly sign up where we encourage people to donate $5 a month. So if we can get, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 people donating $5 a month, that gives us then $250,000 a month to use to help people. Now, the beauty of this system that we set up, it's a form of monetary populism. So if you've donated, regardless of the amount, some people donate $100 a month, some are 20, 50, whatever it is, you get a vote to where that money goes. So our first month we had, I thought we did okay. I think we raised like $1,300. We didn't really promote it too much. And the 3 recipients were Pat King, whether you like him or don't like him. Because some people are like, oh, why are you doing Pat King? It's like, well, whether we like the guy is irrelevant. It's the fact that he's being unfairly targeted by the state. And then we had Sheila Net-Lewis, the 58-year-old lady who's been denied the organ transplant. And then we had Shaba, the Romanian truck driver from Windsor.
Right.
So basically, Sheila Net-Lewis won. And then there's an option there that people select whether they would like 10% of the funds to go to veteran initiatives. So it doesn't come to us. It goes to some Veterans and Everyday Heroes is one. Operation Pegasus Foundation, other veterans organizations, going to be the second month. And then helping out with the legal fees for the 329 people who are at the part of the Valor Legal Action Center lawsuit, the mass tort, with Catherine Christensen. So what we want to do is, keep getting people donating to this every month, and then us sort of getting into the money into the hands of the people that need it. So, and it's completely transparent. We have a completely separate bank account. We do a report, not this month, but next month we're getting a third-party accountant to come in and stamp what we call page 2 of the report, which is the bank statement and then proof that the funds have been dispersed to the person who won the thing. But think about it, Rick. If just imagine if we could get 100,000 Canadians giving $5 a month, which is nothing. That's $500,000. You know, you shouldn't have to sell your house to defend yourself from a tyrannical government. So over the summer and really working into the fall time, we're really going to be pushing this fund initiative, doing videos and that sort of thing. And we just want to get people to sign up, and then we can start protected, because this government's not going anywhere. I know people are like, oh, there's an election coming. No, they're going to, in my opinion, they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep persecuting people. They're going to keep punishing any sort of dissidents who speak out against them. And we as a people need to come together and say, look, you can't keep doing this. We need to help defend these people from persecution.
Yeah, well, that's why I love your organization and love what you guys are doing, because you come up with clearly defined objectives and then you work to execute a plan to reach the objective. And that's the way to do things, because you get things done.
Yeah, exactly. So that's solution-based approach. And you can, if you go to veteransforfreedom.ca/fund, you can hit there. We have a FAQ on there. We have sort of standard operating procedure. We have like reports. We have, the sort of layout, and we'll continue to get better as we do this fund. But this is where we really think we can make a difference in helping people, or helping people pay fines. Like we found out that, again, that Dr. Phillips there, he had to pay the College of Doctors or Physicians, whatever, $6,000 fine. That guy had to pay out of pocket. And he lost his job, lost his career at $6,000. So this stuff's going to continue to happen. And so what we really want to do is build up this fund so that we can help people and pay their fines and really start to protect each other as citizens from a tyrannical government. So that's our big going to be our big push this summer into the fall.
That's excellent. Our time is up, but we're going to have you back on to give us an update. And there are other issues and topics that I'm sure we should explore as well down the road. But Drew, thank you so much for joining us on the program here again tonight. It's, I think, extremely productive and very helpful. So thank you.
Okay. No, that's awesome. Thanks very much for having me, Rick. Appreciate it.
Okay. And there you go. And you can visit veteransforfreedom.ca. That's their website. And then you can find the links to the different pages. And that's a great idea to set up that fund to help people in need, truckers and others facing legal bills and so on. And I love that idea too, that you get a vote to decide where the funds are directed. So once again, Veterans for Freedom on the cutting edge of doing productive, real things that actually make a difference. Stay with me. When we come back, Kevin Macgillivray will be here live from Crimea, where we will get an update on that situation with the bridge attack.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.